Hello and welcome to this free lesson on how to play the wonderful Brown Eyed Girl by Van Morrison on the mandolin. We're going to take a look at the intro to start with, just some nice double stops, and then we're going to spend the bulk of the lesson looking at the chords, on how beginner players can play it, and work our way up to how some intermediate players can tackle it. And hopefully we'll sound a bit like this. So the first thing we're going to do is take a quick look at that lovely intro. It poses an interesting challenge for mandolin players, mainly because a lot of the notes are syncopated. If I turn a metronome on and play it for you. So here we go. 3, 4. You can hear that a lot of those notes, da, 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 they don't fall on the beat. So there's a lot of upstrokes in there. And if you haven't come across this before, don't forget, on the mandolin, down on the beat and up off the beat. So a lot of these notes are off the beat, da, 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 da. And I should say, at any point, if you need to read the music, there is a free PDF that you can click down and download below this video link. It can guide you through all this so you don't have to learn it all by ear. So if you have the music in front of you, we'll just play the single note first. So single notes, it's this. And if I say the pick strokes out loud, down, up, 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 down, up, up. So it's very hard to say pick strokes while I'm playing. But it's notated on there, and every note that's on the beat is a down, and every note that's off the beat is an up. So trust my pick directions on the music and try and copy it exactly. So if I just turn that metronome on and we'll try and play it together. So after 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And again. So that will suffice if you are a beginner player. That still sounds like the intro to Brown Eyed Girl. But the actual guitar riff double stops the whole thing. And in this double stop, again, it's tabbed out below. I'm making my first and ring finger do a lot of the work. So I'm sliding up and down with my first and ring finger. And then like that on the E string. So have a pause of this video and just play through it, and I'll put the metronome back on and we'll play through that intro at the same speed with the double stops, and watch your pick strokes. It's hard to do a double stop on an upstroke, but it's worth getting it right while we're thinking about our pick strokes. So after 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And again. So there you have the intro. If you struggled with that, you don't forget this is a video, so you can look back and try it again. And there is a cog down here, and if you press that cog and select playback speed, you can slow me down as well. Now it's time to spend the rest of the lesson looking at the chords. So there's only 5 chord shapes you need in this song. It's in G, which is nice for us mandolin players. That's a nice key on the mandolin. I'm going to be playing the simple chords. I know some of you may know some harder versions of G, C and D, but sometimes the introductory chords are still the best. So your nice 2-finger G, 2-finger C, 2-finger D, E minor. I like the one that is connected to the G, so if you make your G and then move your finger over, so you got O, 2, 2, 3, and your first finger's covering 2 and 2. And then D7. So if you make your D and then bring your ring finger in to play the 3rd fret, that's the D7 I suggest you use in this video. You can of course use any shape you want. There's plenty of other options, but I think this song, especially if you listen to the acoustic guitar, everything's ringing out as much as possible, so I'm going to try and emulate that on the mandolin. So the first thing I suggest you do is play through these chords just with a nice simple rhythm, and option 1 is just the very introductory bass strum that I get all mandolin players to do. So if you're looking at the chord chart, we have, in the verses, we have a bar of G, a bar of C, a bar of G, and then a bar of D. So, C, and what that means is it just keeps you on beats 2 and 4. This is just more of a guide note. So the strum needs to be a stronger sound. And you really release that wrist. I see a lot of mandolin players play chords with a very restricted wrist like this. You can really... the force comes from your wrist. So I don't want to see nice stiff arms. I want a nice relaxed wrist. That's how you get a nice sound. So we'll have a quick play of a verse of Brown Eyed Girl. I'll put the track on and we'll play along just with this simple rhythm, just so you can get used to playing the chord shapes. So I've slowed the original track down to 90% just to give us time to practice these chords, and I'll give you a counting of 4 and then we'll play one verse. Here we go. 3, 4. To D, G, C, D, D, is it E minor? C, D, so there is the chord shape played very simply with the right hand, but there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. There are still many occasions in bands and in jam sessions where I would just keep the rhythm as simple as that. Just stay out of the way and let the singer do their job, especially if you're the one singing as well. That's a lot of brain space left over to be able to think about the words. So there's option 1. Now on to option 2, and we'll start adding some upstrokes. So this is essentially the same rhythm, that kind of bass strum feel going through it, except the first half of the bar is kept the same, so bass strum. And then the second half of the bar, I've added some upstrokes. So if I just repeat a G, so that's the sound we're going for. Bass, strum, down, up, down, up. And you want the third note of those, so down, up, strum, up, if that's any help, because you still want that strong note on beat 2 and 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So when you're playing these upstrokes, you don't have to worry about being too accurate. I'm generally hitting, so I'm going G, D, strum, E, string. But I'm not too worried. If I hit 2 notes, it still sounds nice. The main thing is that you've got kind of a movement across the strings and you've still got that full strum halfway through. And you're catching the higher strings at the end. And a nice loose wrist. And it should hopefully sound quite nice. And then the trick is, of course, changing chord at the same time. So this is probably my most common used rhythm when I'm playing chords. You've still got the important strong notes on beats 2 and 4, but it's a little bit more interesting for us with that right hand. So let's try from exactly the same place. We'll do a verse and a chorus of Brown Eyed Girl along with the track at 90%, and if that's still too quick for you, use the cog to slow me down. 1, 2, 3, 4. that is quite tricky to do if you're new to kind of thinking about chord rhythms. I know we don't often think about chord rhythms, we just do what comes naturally, but sometimes it's useful to actually think about what your right hand's doing. So keep looping back, make sure you get comfortable with that. Because option 3 gets a little bit harder and it matches what I think is happening in the record. So, and this next one will be a little bit easier if you're a ukulele player, because it's quite a comfortable ukulele pattern, and I've got a few ukulele students who are a bit more easy playing this one. So, this is the rhythm. So we're just slightly changing where those upstrokes fall now. So bass, strum, up is the first half of the bar. So da, da, da. I see this as 2 halves to a bar. So, and then the second half of the bar is up, down, up. And I don't mind what your right hand's doing in terms of which strings it's hitting, as long as that first one of each bar is just the bass note. That one. If you start doing that as a strum as well, it starts to lose a little bit of control and a little bit of subtlety that we kind of need to make sure people know we're in control. So, same exercise. This is more for intermediate players, but I'm going to dive straight in. I'm going to play back along with the recording, verse and chorus, and try and play this rhythm. So, down, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down. Really important you match those pick strokes and get them right. I don't want down, down, up, down, up, down, down, because then you're going to be out of line with where the beat is. So, down, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up. Here we go with the record. 1, 2, 3, 4. Down, down, up, down, up. So again, that's quite tricky to do if you've not thought about rhythms before, so keep looping back because you will come across that quite a lot. The 2 main important things are that first note is just a bass rather than a full strum, and then the second half of the bar starts on an up. Up, down, up. That up, down, up. You have to start that on an up. So, option 4, and this really is starting to get quite tricky now, is the same rhythm, but I'm going to take away some of the notes, and instead of chords, I'm going to introduce a dead sound. So what I'm doing is, for example, on a G, I'm using my spare 2 fingers here, just resting anywhere on the fretboard. It happens to be kind of around there for me. Anywhere that gives me this sound. So absolutely no sound from any string. Any ringing you can hear out is just up here. So I've got brand new strings on that are quite responsive this morning. That dead sound. And if you think you recognise it, the most famous example is the Chris Dealey, the Fox. That's the sound we want. So I'm going to insert 1 or 2 of those into a bar, and it's up to you how many you do. So the full rhythm. So, and it's notated by crosses on the music. So, it's a proper brain teaser. So I'd suggest maybe just start with the first one in the bar. So, and what this does, it just adds a little bit of rhythm into your chord playing. And essentially what you're doing is you're mimicking what the snare drum would be doing on, again, beats 2 and 4. 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 4. So you're basically creating your own little snare drum on beats 2 and 4 of the bar. And if I was to play the track and play along with it, and you can try it as well if you feel comfortable with that rhythm, but this is how it would sound. I'll just do half a verse on this one. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So as you can hopefully hear, that's not exactly how it's played on the recording. This is sort of a step extra beyond the recording, but this is a lesson after all. I do want you to go away with something challenging to work on, and that is definitely challenging. So you have 4 options there to play the chords. The original, I'm just playing along with the original version that you can find on YouTube. So please do now head over to that. I'm not going to do a full play along this video. I want you to go and play along with Van Morrison and his great band playing The Brown Eyed Girl. Remember, you've got the chord chart. You can choose any option. And when we're playing these chord rhythms, there's never one's better than another. And I will probably switch between them, between verses and chorus. You know, in a verse, you'll maybe option 1 in a verse, keep it simple. And then in the chorus, to build it up a bit, you'll open your arm out a bit. So don't be afraid to switch between them. Different rhythms, different chop options. There's lots of you to work on there. So I hope you've enjoyed the lesson. Please hit like and subscribe if you have. There's plenty of other free lessons over at mandolin.com, and we'll see you next month.